All right, another morning on the 55. So got in and the floor didn't fall out of it, so that's a good sign. We're gonna start out today with getting the lower A-pillar pedestal mounts put in on both sides. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll show you real quick. So I think I mentioned in the last video, we did a 57 Chevy like 7 years ago, and I don't think they remade these then. But anyway, even if they did, I don't know, we just guess we didn't see them if they did. But these guys sit in here like this. Now obviously it's not perfect, but spot welds here. It's the ones in the last video, I was removing the old ones. So we'll get this stuff cleaned up today so I can get it all spot welded in place, drill some holes to spot weld it to the floor, and that encapsulates your body bolt and then helps with structural rigidity as well. Easy for me to say. So yeah, we're gonna start with getting those bad boys on, and we'll go over a little bit more of what we're gonna do as well. There's still a few loose ends to tie up. Like we didn't pinch this together and spot weld these in yet on either side. And then this quarter I do believe is nice enough. The pinch is in really good shape under here, besides this little back portion, which is going to get cut out because he's going to do gasser arches anyway. So I can probably get this pinched together and weld all the way up to the front of that quarter panel and get this sucker in place. So, but like I said, I'm gonna get started with those lower A-pillar sections, and yeah, we'll go from there. And, the last few spot welds, so nothing too exciting, nothing you didn't see in the last video, so that's why I didn't really film much of it. But got the quarter panel solid, so it's pinched right up against the new floor / inner rocker. We went ahead and pinch welded the inner quarter to the new floor on the inside here, and on the other side, which the interior panel's in the way, but nothing too exciting. I just didn't feel much like filming it. So right now I'm going to get started on those pedestal mounts, which I just showed you in the last clip. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting all my stuff prepped for that and get my holes punched that I need for my pocket welds on the actual base of them, which are around this ring right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that, and we'll take you along for the ride here and see how well these things go in. Okay, got this thing mocked up and in place, and I scribed the base in the position I want it. So now I can go through and I need to remake this inner piece. So I need to patch that really quick, and then we should be ready to punch some holes around the base for the spot welds. And I already got it all cleaned up for the seam welds on the side and the pocket welds on that flange. So I'll go ahead and get this inner piece made, and then probably set up a little time lapse for welding this thing in. So he's getting the little patch panel put in there to connect the quarter to the rocker that we had to remove when installing the rocker. So basically, he is filling in this gap right here. See this step down? That actually lays behind the outer surface, the quarter. So he is actually sectioning a piece in right here on the other side, and we're waiting on this side because, as you can tell, it's rotting through here and rotting all underneath. So we're kind of holding off on that right now. But he's taking care of that side because it's solid. So we'll show you what it looks like when he's all finished up. Primed in here to protect it. Left a clean edge over there to weld to. And obviously clean out here where I'm spot welding. And then as I showed you, I had the area scribed where the pedestal mount goes. And now I got each little spot where I'm spot welding it ground down so I can have good connection for my welds. He's getting that finished up, and I just got this pedestal all done. So I pocket welded it as well as stitch welded it around the seam just to give it more strength, since this car probably will have, you know, a good power plant in it. So it's all pocket welded, done at the bottom, and ready to move on to that side. All right, we got the passenger side cleaned up and ready to weld. So now I got to slip this in, mark where these holes are at, get it cleaned up down there, and we'll be ready to weld this side in as well. All right, guys, got this pedestal mount in. So got it all stitched there around the seam and plug welded, stitched on the side over there, and plug welded from the side. So that'll be it for that portion. And I think he got done with that over there, so I'll show you guys what that looks like. All right, he got that all finished up, got it seamed together. So now it's seamless, just like the factory. And obviously it's not perfect. It's a little low because that's where you'll do your body work and stuff. So that's all squared away. So right now we pretty much have to hold off on the other side like we talked about. But as of right now, I think we're ready to start cleaning everything up and getting prepped for the chassis. All right, guys, got the, I think we left off showing you some of the pedestal mounts I got welded in. We went ahead and got the bracing removed. So as you can see, we smoothed out where the welds were at, tacking that in place, so it's all out now. So basically what we're going to do now, we got all that done, is we're going to get the doors back on it. So we're going to bolt these things back up, get them hung up and lined back up, and this thing should be ready to set back down on the chassis if we're not doing the trunk floor. We don't know much yet, so when I know more, I'll tell you more. We got the gasser up on the lift. We wanted to get it up in the air to look at a couple things as well, so we can roll the chassis back over here and get the body back on the chassis, because I'm not sure how far we're going. We may be giving it back to the owner until he builds up some more funds for us to finish some other things. So figured we give you a look at the underside of the car with the new floor pan. So there it is under here. Here's, you can see all the spot welds, and here's where the original quarter spotted to the new floor on this side, because it's actually all nice down there. And this side is the one we didn't address, because once again, we don't know how far we're going, but you know, it came right up into place, but it's staying like that for now. But yeah, looks really nice. Super strong. And here it is from the front as well. Yeah. So yeah, there it is. We're gonna get this thing back down, or get the chassis back over here and put it underneath it. And then we're gonna see, basically probably measure the chassis, because we think the front clip's been welded on out of square. So we're gonna do some measuring on that and check that out. Then we'll probably be putting the body back on the chassis. All right, what we're doing now is getting this thing squared up on jack stands. And we're getting everything level here, crossways as well as front to back. We do have frame tables, but this is just kind of a quick way to get our measurements and figure out where we're at. So we're getting this thing level, and then we're going to be measuring this front clip that someone did, because we're pretty sure it's off. So once we get that measurement, I'll let you guys know kind of where we're at with this chassis. Doing this is, this car is going to have a tilt front end on it, and it's got to be chassis mounted. So whenever you go to do that, you got to have everything squared up and where it needs to be. And you know, we're not dogging anybody's work that did it because we don't even know who did it, but we're finding out that the clip that was put in is has a 2.3 degree rake when it's supposed to be level. So that's already putting you in a bind right there. And any, you know, typical small block needs to sit at a 5 degree rake. And now with that 2.3 degree rake added in with the 5 degree rake they have on the engine mounts, is going to put it at a 7.2, 7.3 degree rake, which is far too much. So that's what we're dropping plumb bobs to get a more accurate measurement. We can see we got the chassis level here, and then you can see when you come up on this clip how far that bubble goes down, when it should be, you know, like this right there. It's like that. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, so we can figure out where the heck we're even at with this. So, and then also caster wise, someone made a little bit too much caster into the front of this to where it's really hard to turn, almost like the old school front engine dragsters or a Top Fuel or something, when you see them turn and they lay over. So someone just added, you know, far too much caster. So that's what we're here to do, is look at these issues and try to correct them and make it right. So we'll get back with you when we figure out more. Alright guys, did some more with this chassis and measuring and stuff like that. The time lapse, what we were doing was dropping the plumb bob so we can get exact dead markings and measurements of the chassis itself. So found out, we talked about the degree. You know, the front of the chassis is raked up. It doesn't sit level from side to side up front here. As well as the engine mounts are a little off, and it's just kind of tweaked everywhere. So we're just going to try to figure out what our next step is and what we're going to do with this chassis, since the whole front end's kind of messed up. So, and also this measurement from this leaf spring mount to the outer edge, and that leaf spring mount to the outer edge is completely different. This side is like 6 and some change, and this side's like 8 inches and a quarter or so. So that's really far off. So we'll let you know when we figure out some more of what we're going to do with this, or if we're even going to address it yet. All right, so after we figured out all our measurements, we've gotten in contact with the owner, and he's told us to get a go ahead to get this thing all squared up. So right now I'm getting the steering put back together so we can get the wheels on it and move the chassis. And we're actually going to toss the frame table over here and get it all assembled and get this thing squared up on the frame table. So that way when we cut all this stuff and do it right, it's going to be all squared up and we know it's going to be correct when we go and weld this thing together. So I'm going to get this thing all put together, and we're going to get the chassis out of here and go over and get the frame table. So probably put a little time lapse together for you guys when we get the frame table built. Okay, as you just saw in the time lapse, we got our frame table in here and assembled. And what we did was we got the thing level. As you can see, the bubble there, and there. And then now we know we're level this way, and why we did that was adjusting the adjustable casters at the bottom, got it all squared up. and centered. So now we are ready to look at getting our chassis in here and getting it put up on the table. So we got it pushed out of the way for a minute. As you can see, I'm kind of sanding in it. And got the chassis back in, got the wheels off of it. Gonna pull the front axle out and get the rear end out of it. And then we'll be ready to take the chassis and place it on top of here, start getting it clamped up and centered. All right, we got the front end out from underneath it and the rear end out. So now we're getting our chassis table ready. We're gonna get everything swapped over to that. Got this thing in position. So now we can go through and get the chassis centered on the actual table, front to back, side to side. And then we'll actually take clamps and clamp it to these center bars. And then once we do that, that chassis will be centered, it'll be square. And then we can start doing some more measuring and getting this thing, decide where we want to cut it and do what we got to do to make it all right. Okay, we did quite a bit of work there. Didn't get to film a whole lot there, but since we left off last, we got it all squared up on the chassis and all even. We got our crossbars tacked in place and the frame tacked to the crossbars. Everything's level, everything's square. And then we were able to measure how much of a upward rake this has, as well as the frame rails themselves. So, as we said that someone who did this didn't do it right, which we found out now that we got the chassis square. It's actually a little bit better than we thought, but this frame rail is a little shorter from that mount than this one, as well as still like an up sweep, but it is actually level from side to side now that we got it in. So we just got to figure out what length is correct, so when we go to fix this, we'll know that it's right. So that's basically our next step. We did get the engine mounts cut out, so we got those cut back out, so that way when we find the ride height, this has got a big block and a 4-speed going in it, so when we get the engine and trans, we can all bolt it up and have it set at ride height when we have the rear end back underneath it. Then we can get the engine mounts in the right spot and weld them in at the 5 or so degrees they're supposed to be at. So, and we'll go further into that for a lot of you guys that don't know why a small block or big block is set at that certain degree. We'll show you more of that when we get there, but. Graydon's getting the rear end prepped right now. He's getting some of the old lines off so we can get this thing all cleaned up and painted. And yeah, like I said, we got this thing all squared up, so we're ready to basically address this front clip. And then once we get that front clip addressed and where we want it, then it is time to get that front axle in and get it welded at the right degree of caster, which I think we found the instructions for this kit, like in between 6 to 8 degrees. So. Yeah, so I think that'll probably end it off for this video here, and obviously the next one will pick back up and show you guys how we decide to cut and square up the front portion of this clip. So yeah, give us a like and subscribe and share, and yeah, we'd appreciate it. Help us grow, and that way we can keep doing these things.